Hey, how's it going, folks? Welcome to another ADHD video by Wilhelm. So for today, we're going to be talking and covering the topic of hyperfocusing. Hyperfocusing is a superpower that many of us with ADHD have when we can focus very fiercely, very intensely for long hours or long periods of time on one task or activity. Now, granted, this has its pros and cons, as many of us know. When we are hyperfocusing, comes a loss of time where we're not aware of how much time has gone by, whether we picked up the kids from school, whether we met the job recruiter for that job interview, whether we sent that email or not. These things just go out the window. We're not aware whether we've done them or not, or even if the deadline has passed for some of them or not. So it is important to utilize this ADHD superpower that is hyperfocusing. Remember, with hyperfocusing, it's an intense sense of focus that the brain does, that the mind does. And the reason why is because the brain is getting stimulated by dopamine and serotonin. So we're able to enjoy the activity of what we're doing, but once we get locked into that sense of focus, it's really hard to stop, and we kind of lose track of the responsibilities and the other stuff we have to do during the day sometimes. And that can be kind of a nuisance because a lot of people like hyperfocusing when they're working on projects, when they're working on schoolwork, job work, whatever it is. We sometimes like to knock out multiple things at once when the hyperfocusing kicks in, because the hyperfocusing is a really fierce sense of focus that a lot of us are able to do. It's just that we're not able to stop once we start. And sometimes we miss other responsibilities and deadlines and stuff of that nature. So it's important to know how we can control this great superpower. Like the saying says, with great power comes great responsibility. So before we move forward, let's look at a couple of terms and definitions. The first term we have to learn about over here is time blindness. When we're working on something and we're hyperfocusing, we're not necessarily going to be aware of how much time has passed, how many minutes, how many hours, how many days even. Yes, people can hyperfocus 4 days. So when we're hyperfocusing, we can lose track of time, of what's going on all around us, because we're so zoned in. It's almost like everything around us becomes blurry to an extent. And sometimes when we're hyperfocusing, we're so addicted to that feeling of hyperfocusing while we're doing it, because the brain's reward system is just being increased, that when we're hyperfocusing on one thing, we just want to jump into something else to hyperfocus on. So sometimes we might be so stimulated, the brain might be so stimulated with the reward system that we don't want to stop what it is that we're working on, because we just want to continue that sense of focus and get stuff done. Because hey, we don't know how much this stuff is gonna last. We don't know if we're gonna feel like getting this done tomorrow, next week, or whatever it is. So a lot of people with ADHD, once the hyperfocusing kicks in, it's like, quick, give me another project, give me another email to send, give me another this, another that, because I don't know when I'm gonna want to do this again. Let me take advantage of it now. The cool thing about hyperfocusing is there's a way to harness that power, to control it, and to set it on and to set it off. So that's really important to know. So now that we've discussed a couple of terms and definitions and factoids about hyperfocusing, let's jump into now, how do we control the hyperfocusing and what are some of the struggles that come with it? First line of tactic, set a firm time boundary with yourself. Now, if you're gonna work on something, a lot of the time we have an idea how long it's gonna take us. When you have ADHD, sometimes we don't have a clue how long something is going to take us to complete. So set yourself a very firm time boundary. If you're going to work on something for 2 to 3 hours in one day or in one night, allow yourself to only work for those 2 to 3 hours or an hour, whatever it is. So when you set that time boundary with yourself, you got to be looking at the clock. You got to be keeping track of what you're doing. In a really helpful way to keep track of yourself and discipline yourself is to set an alarm. Now, a lot of people tell me, Wilhelm, it's really difficult for me to stop myself when I'm working on something, to just, when I hear my alarm, it's like, boom, I just stop. Like, I can't just do that. A lot of people tell me. So what I tell them is make it easy on yourself. Set an alarm perhaps 30 minutes before you gotta stop. Or rather, set an alarm 30 minutes before the main alarm. That way you give yourself 30 minutes before to start getting ready. Let's say I'm working on something for an hour, right? So I put my alarm an hour from now. But I also put an alarm 30 minutes before that hour alarm goes off. That way, when I hear the 30-minute alarm, the alarm letting me know I have 30 minutes left, it's gonna be easier for me to start getting myself mentally and emotionally prepared to stop the activity that I'm working on, because I'm letting the brain know, hey, we got 30 minutes left. We got to start wrapping this up because we got other stuff we got to do, or because we got to get ready to go to sleep. And in that sense, you can help create yourself some kind of bookmark for yourself, essentially, where you'll have an idea, cool, I have 30 minutes left. Let me get up to at least this point in the project, in the email, whatever it is you're working on. You'll be able to tell, okay, I got 30 minutes left. Cool, let me start wrapping everything up. If you want to go the extra mile, put an alarm 15 minutes before the main alarm goes off. That way you can tell yourself, now I got this amount of time, it's time for me to start wrapping all of this up. It makes it easier because you're preparing yourself. Instead of just hearing one alarm, it's like, boom, you're hyper-focusing, you're zoned in, all of a sudden, boom, alarm goes off. You gotta stop. That's really hard to do. Imagine that, you're working on something, boom, an alarm goes off, and all of a sudden it's like, what? I have to stop out of nowhere? Don't do that to yourself. Set an alarm 30 minutes before that main alarm. That way you can wean yourself off the hyper-focusing, because it is something difficult to get off of. So remember, 30 minutes to 45 minutes, however long you feel you need. For me and for a lot of people I work with, I recommend them to set an alarm 30 minutes before the main alarm. It really helps you to get off the hyper-focusing. Give it a try. Second point, set a realistic goal to how much you want to get done that night. A lot of the time, people with ADHD, we've been procrastinating, so we want to knock out a whole project like in one night, right? But that's not healthy to do. So with hyper-focusing, you can get a ton done. But what's helpful is try to see and anticipate how much you want to get done. Believe it or not, sometimes you're going to get more done than you want. And that's a good thing. But some of us want to keep hyper-focusing and working on other stuff. We're like, heck, might as well keep working on more stuff. I feel like focusing now. That doesn't come around too often. So when that does happen, when you're working on something and you feel you're going to hyper-focus, plan. How long should this take? How long do I usually take to do fill in the blank, whatever activities that you're doing? So that way you can have an estimation of, I'm going to get this amount of things done with this subject or with this task tonight. And then you'll have a concrete idea. You won't just be blindly working on something. Well, let me see how much I can get done. And next thing you know, 5 or 4 hours have passed. So it's helpful, but it's not helpful if we're neglecting other responsibilities and duties and stuff that we got to do. So remember, try to anticipate, how long does this take me to do? And if you're not sure how long that takes you to do, time yourself. Start finding out, how long does it take me to get ready to leave and go to work? How long does it take me to complete this work for my job? How long does it take me to complete this paper for school, this project, or studying for a test? Find out how long it takes you, because for a lot of people with ADHD, they don't know how long something takes them because they're lost in the zone of hyper-focusing. Start timing yourself. That way you can estimate to yourself when you're going to work on something, wow, I'm working on this tonight. This is going to take me this amount of hours. I should start working on this perhaps a little earlier in the night so I don't go to sleep too late. And for a lot of people, they might not be aware of how long something takes them. That's where practice comes in, and where you should start timing yourself so you can have a time duration idea of how long something's going to take you to do, so you can better manage your time with hyperfocusing and ADHD. Point 3. I highly recommend getting an analog clock. A clock with numbers and the hands pointing to those numbers. The reason why research has shown an analog clock is recommended for those of us with ADHD is because it gives us a physical representation of the passage of time. So you can see what 5 minutes looks like, what 15 minutes looks like. Rather than just counting it in your head or using math to subtract or add to see how much time is left with a digital clock, look at an analog clock. You're going to start seeing proportions of time. Your brain is going to interpret that differently. And it's going to help the ADHD brain understand that, okay, I have until this hand of the clock reaches this number to get this down. It makes it a physical representation. So your brain is going to take that information a bit differently, which is going to help the hyperfocusing. And an analog clock is really recommended to have at your workspace, at your work desk, where you can look up every so often. And when you're hyperfocusing, it's recommended you look at that analog clock frequently. You don't have to look at it all the time, but look at it a good amount of time. So you can tell yourself, okay, I have this amount of time left, so I better use my time wisely. That physical representation of time can make or break it for a lot of us when it comes to ADHD. It's really helpful in organizing yourself, in pacing yourself, in understanding how much time you have left, and perhaps how to use your time better. It's a lot more recommended than a digital clock. So if you didn't know, now you know. Go get yourself an analog clock. It can make all the difference. And point 4, this is the shut-off valve technique. This is a technique that is recommended when you feel you cannot control yourself at all. These are the type of people, when they're hyper-focusing, they can't stop for nothing. It's like they're zoned in, they're feeling good, the mind's being stimulated. It's like, oh man, I'm getting more done. Oh, I don't know what's going on around me, but man, I'm feeling good focusing. Some people can't stop because the reward system of the brain is really high when you're hyper-focusing. So what you can do is make sure your papers, your files, or whatever you're working on, the computer or the phone, are saved. Okay, make sure the video game is saved if that's what you're doing. Then once that stuff is saved and your progress is saved, then just unplug the cord from your computer, your laptop, whatever it is, or if it's a phone or tablet or any other piece of technology, just hold the power button down and just turn that sucker off. Just turn it off. Because guess what? You're not going to stop hyperfocusing if you don't have the discipline to. And sometimes just shutting something off can immediately disconnect us from the hyperfocusing. Now, what's recommended for you to make sure that you don't jump onto another hyperfocusing activity? Because that's what happens to a lot of people with ADHD. It's like we stop one hyperfocusing activity and we want to jump to another one because the stimulation of the mind is going. So what you can do for yourself is, after you've unplugged or turned off the device, go and reward yourself with a little snack, with a little pick-me-up, something to help you feel good or bring you to your happy place. That way, the reward system of the brain can feel a bit more at ease. Because when you break off hyperfocusing abruptly, it can feel very uncomfortable. Because your brain is going off on its neurochemistry, your reward system is going off, and if you just turn that off right away, it can feel pretty bad. So have yourself a little rewarding snack, watch yourself a show, do something that helps you bring yourself back up. Because you don't want to jump into another activity and start hyper-focusing on that. That's the last thing that you want to do. And lastly, when you're hyper-focusing, what's helpful to do, and it helps a lot of people out, is to help you focus more. Listen to instrumental music. Different styles, whether it be synthwave, retrowave, jazz, lo-fi hip-hop, video game soundtracks. There's so much beautiful music out there you can listen to while you're studying, you're writing, whatever it is you're doing. You're painting, working on something for work. Instrumental music has been shown in research to help quite a bit of people with ADHD to focus more when they're working on something. Something else that works as well is different sorts of recordings of sounds. There's a lot of different options all over Spotify and other websites, and a lot on YouTube as well. These are sort of neural sounds that stimulate the brain because of the frequency of the sound. When I was in grad school, believe it or not, some dude uploaded a Windows 95 startup, and they stretched that sucker out for about an hour. So imagine the Windows 95 startup for an hour, just going slow. It sounds like you're ascending to computer heaven, so to speak. So that sound really helped my mind just become focused and at ease. So you don't have to look up Windows 95 like me, but you can look up something else perhaps on YouTube. A slowed down frequency that really helps your brain out. And if you don't know what type of frequency helps you out, research, experiment, see what's out there for you. There's a lot of soundscape and neural sound options out there to help you focus and stimulate the mind enough to help your hyper-focusing experience be an efficient and a healthy one. And one last recommendation besides the music is to have your workspace really decorated and with an ambiance that makes you feel good. Have the lighting the way you like it. Have stuff around you that makes you feel good. And for a lot of us with ADHD, we like to snack on stuff. So I recommend some healthy snacks, some snacks that are perhaps helpful with sensory sort of things, that have a crunch, a certain taste that you like. Whatever it is, it's helpful sometimes to snack, preferably on healthy snacks, of course, when we're working on our stuff, because ADHD is no joke, and sometimes having a snack can help us focus a little bit more and give us more of that stamina and energy that we need. So these were a couple of helpful tips to help you out with your hyper-focusing needs and necessities. So I hope these things brought you some insight and help you out on your hyper-focusing journeys that lay ahead. So thanks for watching, take it easy, and I'll see you around.